Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Behind the Scenes with Ben. And I'm so excited about this episode because you and I, we haven't had a lot of interaction since you've been on the team. And I've been complaining about it. And I know you've been complaining about it.
Yes.
So I think we were both unhappy. And now we're settling it. And we decided to just catch it on a behind the scenes.
What better way?
What better way? We're going to do a get to know you sort of thing. I'm Ben, and you are?
I'm Julie.
Guys, this is Julie Ashens. I am in the Kingsport office here, and I'm so excited to introduce you guys to her. She's up front in the Kingsport office. If you've been in the Kingsport office over the last couple of months, I know you've seen her. She wore my favorite mask on, this was Black Friday. She had a mask on that said, "I'm smiling underneath here."
Yes.
And I was just taken aback by it. I was like, that's so cool. Like, I've never seen a mask that awesome.
It was great.
Yeah. I hope you still are rocking it everywhere, even in places you don't have to. Now, we have to, in order to do the show, you have to have no mask because we can hear you.
Correct.
But, when you're out in public, I hope you're smiling.
I'm totally smiling.
Even if people can't see it.
Absolutely. My eyes tell it all.
Yes. So Julie, this is behind the scenes, and you've been here a couple months now. You're one of our newest team members. For one, I'm so excited you're part of the team. Like I'm so pumped. You make me so happy, the fact that I know you're there. And I'm just so glad that we get to do this, and I get to learn a little bit more about you, and we're going to talk about performance medicine. But I want to start, introduce yourself just a tad bit, who you are, kind of where you're from, and then we'll start talking about PM.
Great. Well, thank you for having me, and I feel very blessed to be part of the performance medicine team. First off, I've been raised in Kingsport, lived here my whole life. Graduated college, decided to stick around here, of course, and immediately got into healthcare. Mm-hmm. Then from there, I ended up working in higher education on the medical side. And from there, I decided I needed the business aspect of it, so I went and got my master's. And once I got that knowledge part of it, I knew I wanted to be in a smaller practice, more home-based, community-based.
Coming from a hospital system, or coming from the higher education side to more of a smaller private practice?
Coming from higher education,
okay.
It was never really the hospital side. It was more in a role of just being in the community and working in 3 different clinics within ETSU, mm-hmm. and love my job there, respect everyone there. And I just knew that I wanted to be in a smaller practice because I value community.
Ever since, we've chatted quite a bit over the phone, and you, what really stood out about you was your passion for healthcare on all sides, mm-hmm. as well as, this idea of prevention. Can you just kind of give me some insight of where that came from? Have you always knew that you wanted to be in healthcare?
No. Simply put, no.
No. I love it. I love the honesty there.
I never knew I really wanted to be in healthcare. It was a mishap that happened, really. I ended up working for an ambulance company a long time ago, and I thought, this is really interesting at all the different codes that were coming through, and I was looking at all the different things that people were having done, and it sparked an interest. But I didn't pursue that interest until later on.
I would imagine that situation would really spark an interest because of, I bet you didn't have a boring minute in your entire time in that job.
No, there was never a boring minute. And most people don't even know about that.
It's about you or about that world?
About me and having that job.
Yeah.
But it was such an interesting journey. And I always tucked it away in the back of my mind and thought, that was really interesting. I tried other things, and it just didn't fit.
Was it interesting in the sense that the sense of urgency that comes with that world, or that it's so obvious that you're helping?
Yes.
It's obvious that you're helping in that situation.
It's obvious, yes. You're either helping or you're not.
Yes.
And in that situation, you're definitely helping. So, yeah, what was interesting about it is that someone needed you.
Yeah.
They needed a service.
Yeah.
And you were there for them.
Yeah.
Big or small.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes it was just taking them to a doctor's appointment. or to the hospital for treatment. And then other times it was a real life emergency.
That's it's such a big deal. And it's actually something I think a lot about in regards to performance medicine. And I've always said that, our communities, whether it's, the Tri-Cities or Knoxville or Chattanooga, like we need more performance medicines, whether it's a performance medicine or not, we need more people doing this type of work. And I'm interested, is that part of the reason that you kind of, steered towards, prevention and these private practices in terms of like the need, that desire you have and the fulfillment you get, I'm sure, from being needed, and it's so obvious in a place like this?
Yes. The reason, and I've been a patient for a very, very long time at Performance Medicine. And I was actually just looking the other day to see how long I was a patient.
That's actually great.
Ben and I were talking about it. Ben's like, whoa, that long? I was like, yes, Ben.
Shout out to Ben Curtis. Ben Curtis is another one of our new team members who we love. Hello, Ben.
So
you went back in your chart.
Yeah.
We're paper charts here, so it's pretty funny to go back, and I'm sure we had different vital sheets and different different everything at some point.
We weren't even paying attention to that. We just went back to see the date, flipped it back through, and Ben's like, "Wow." I said, "I know, right?" He said, "That's awesome." I said, "I know."
Yes.
So anyway, we just got an idea of that. But to go back to what we were talking about, performance medicine has always been something that every time I go in as a patient, I was there to feel good. Sure. I was there because I wanted to feel good. So many people come in on a daily basis, and they're there to feel good, and we're there to help them, whether it be hormones or to have their labs done to see what's going on, why things are thrown off, why they can't feel their optimal best.
You mentioned something that kind of, light bulb moment for me was, I keep hearing Dr. Rogers talk a lot about how as soon as he started performance medicine and kind of, got rid of some of the middlemen in healthcare, one of the first things that happened was, every patient that comes in really wants to be there.
Yes.
And I know, on your end, what you're saying when you're welcoming people into the practice, like, being in different sectors of healthcare, you can get a sense of like, man, who feels like they have to come here,
right? Versus,
who's coming here because, man, like I've been, waiting a week to get in here and I need to get in.
Yes.
And I think from your perspective, being in that environment, like, what's that like when you see somebody coming in that they need it, they want it, and we're here to kind of help along with that?
Well, I was in that situation.
Yeah.
So, as being a patient with performance medicine and knowing the urgency, even if it's Botox, we want to come in and get those services to make us feel better. It's all about empowerment.
Yeah.
If we can make them feel good, let's feel good.
Yeah, and I'm really glad you said that about Botox and some of the aesthetic side of the practice. Like, there's a real purpose for that.
Yes.
Like it's not a vain thing. It's really it impacts you on the inside as well. And you want to talk about that in terms of just what you've seen from a being a patient to helping patients. Like, what's that about?
Yes.
Because I do think that's a confusing part of performance medicine. Like, our main stuff is, obviously, the hormones, the getting to the root issue of, why you're not feeling good.
Yes.
But there's also this aesthetic side, this kind of pampered side. What's your thoughts in like the integration of that?
Well, Lori and I spoke yesterday, and I asked Lori, what got you into this side of things? What actually pulled you from, being a nurse, and she was working in one of the most critical sites ever, working with
in Memphis. Was
it was in Memphis, yeah, and doing her thing. And she said it just happened by chance that they were training people to do injections.
Interesting.
Yeah,
inside of a hospital setting. Or
I guess
a
they were
care
just
setting?
Yeah. I guess they just were. The way she explained it, she would have to go more in detail, but the way she explained it was they just kind of pulled a few people aside and said, would you be interested in doing training on injections?
Yeah.
And so she went for it. And she said, even though it's not helping kids like I was, it's still helping people because they come in and they're distraught about how they feel about themselves, and they leave with a smile. And she said that was just a moment for me that she said at first I thought it was a very vain thing when I was first doing it. But she said after realizing I'm helping women and men feel good about themselves every day.
Yeah, and you know what? When I think about it, I'm really into habits and like lifestyle type stuff, and what I would imagine is say you walk out with a smile, you're feeling good, you're feeling great about yourself. The likelihood of you eating better is probably increased. The likelihood of your activity levels, getting your exercise in, is probably going to increase.
Yes.
It's just interesting to me. And I did not this is just, coming at me right now, but it's interesting how that all kind of works out, and Lori, you go see Lori, you come out feeling great about yourself. And, especially to start off a year or something like that. And then all of a sudden you notice that, hey, I'm drinking water instead of Coke. I'm doing all these things. Is that something that do you connect with that? Is that, am I just out there?
No, I'm connected. I'm totally connected with that. The more steps we make toward making our lives better, the more steps we want to make.
Yeah.
I mean, we're human.
Yeah.
We want validation.
Yep.
And once we get it, we want to do more for ourselves.
Yeah. It's like, okay, we get some positive reinforcement. I'm sure you see it, and I'm sure you're a big part of it. When people come into performance medicine, they get some positive reinforcement. Hey, you're on the right track. We're going to get this weight off of you. We're going to, we're going to get those hormone levels in check. All of a sudden that energy that comes along with it, it impacts, where you go eat that night, and it impacts what you cook at home. And that to me, I think is super cool and a big part of the aesthetic practice.
And that's what Dr. Rogers is preaching out there.
Yeah.
He's saying, let's take care of ourselves on all aspects.
Yeah.
So pellets is another thing.
Yeah.
When people come in for pellets or they have their first consultation with hormones, the only thing I hear when I'm checking people out and I'm talking to them about is, I wish I would have came sooner. That's my only regret.
What do you think? I wish I hadn't come sooner. What do you think the barrier is before? Is it lack of knowledge? Is it lack of is it fear? Like what do you think it is based on what you see in the practice?
I'm gonna go a totally different direction.
Do it.
I think as women and men, we make excuses for ourselves and we think, well, I've had a really rough month, or we just got through the holidays. Maybe that's why I'm tired. Or I have a kid at home that I'm having to homeschool. I mean, the list is just never ending. And we think we're tired or we're not feeling our best because of all the things that we have on our plate. And women especially do this, not to, underrate the men, but women do this a lot because, by nature, we're the caretakers for the family, and we make excuses on, well, last week I wasn't feeling that good. This week I've had a lot on my plate. You just, before you know it, months have passed by and you don't take care of yourself.
Do you think it's because the women are such in that caretaker role, and they're constantly concerned about their loved ones, the others in their life? Do you think it could be like I'm so focused on how so-and-so's feeling, I don't even recognize that I feel terrible?
That's part of it too.
Because all your focus is on others.
Others, always. Yes. So, yes, I just spoke to a lady yesterday and she said that she was making sure that her husband came in because she had such a great experience with pellets, and she was going to make sure her husband was on the same regimen because it has changed her outlook on life.
Yeah, it's so fascinating. It's like, it's kind of corny to say you don't know how tired you are until you're not tired, or something like that.
Yes.
There's a phrase.
Google it.
Just Google it. Google it. It has an amazing, really smart author.
It's really smart.
And it makes a lot of sense.
We just can't think of it.
And I just can't come up with it right now. Not on this behind the scenes. But, there's that saying that you don't know until you know. And I think, you see that a lot inside the practice, and I'm sure, patients are feeling that. It's like, wow, I didn't know how tired I was until now, until
Yeah.
I'm not feeling tired.
Oh, it's great. It's great to see that aha moment for them. That's probably one of the best things. When I'm talking to them, I try to engage in conversation with them a bit about, oh, you had a great visit today when they had the pellets. And they're like, yes, I am so thankful that my hormones are now in the optimal stage because, and then they tell me all the becauses.
Yeah, that aha moment, I can imagine from your perspective, from Dr. Rogers, from, the Lori's, that would be, kind of that moment going back to, that feeling needed, like,
Yes.
wow, like, we're truly helping here. I think that's super cool. That's super cool. And you felt the aha moment yourself as a patient,
Yes.
And
I would urge anyone who is, just lacking the get up and go, lacking the energy, just come in, get it checked out. See what your hormones say.
Do you? We've been talking a lot about vitamin D this week and some supplementation. Dr. Rogers keeps talking about checking levels. That's such a big deal.
It is.
Do you think the first step for people in regards to hormones is, hey, just get your levels checked?
Yes.
That sort of thing.
Yes. And vitamin D is a hormone.
Sure. Yep.
So when your vitamin D is low, you're also going to be tired and fatigued and not be able to do the things that you would normally do. So vitamin D is very important. And
melatonin is a hormone too.
Yes.
Like all these different hormones are coming out.
Did we even go to school to learn this?
Yeah, we wrote a doctor's note on melatonin, did a podcast, and Dr. Rogers talks about how, melatonin, there's a study out that's, shown that it could be helpful with COVID and, and of course, vitamin D. So it's just super fascinating, in the sense that how all these things kind of work together, even the aesthetic part, the injections, with Kelly and just a simple peel, or a makeover.
Yes. Kelly was working on a teenager for acne.
Yeah.
And his mother brings him in to get that done. And I mean, could you imagine being a teenager nowadays? I couldn't. Could you imagine being a teenager with acne? I couldn't.
Yeah.
And the fact that he comes in to have those treatments done is life-changing for him.
Yeah.
Really?
I do. I mean, honestly, this year and this year's been just such a weird year for everybody, but kids. I do have, a ton of empathy for all the changes that they're going through. And some of the things that they're missing out, and again, it's all for a good cause, and we're hoping that things can get back to some sense of normal. At some point this year, we're very hopeful for that. But man, I tell you what, this has been like really fun for me.
I love it.
This behind the scenes, we've got to make her a star of this show, and she's already a star of our Kingsport office. So,
you're too sweet,
Julie. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any parting advice? Anything you want to say to the listeners out there before we get off here?
I would really just say, do something for yourself. Do it. Push forward. Make this the year that you feel your best and you do your best. And we would love to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And we would love to be a part of your journey. So if you can make us a part of your journey, give us a call. But either way, we just want you to be healthy and happy.
I'm really glad you said that, because one of the things that Dr. Rogers says so much that's it's kind of contradictory in a way. He's like, really, you need to be your own doctor. And we're just guides here.
You know your body. You know your body the best.
And it's just such a shift, a mentality shift for people, and I think that's what's happening inside, those walls back there, and then all of our other offices is people are really taking ownership. Because no one is telling them to come in. It's on their own. Gosh, my words here.
Unless they have a wife.
They're going on their own.
Unless they have a wife. Then they're telling them.
Yes. Thank God for great wives.
Or girlfriends.
Or
either
girlfriends, one. The whole
significant
deal.
others, whatever it may be.
Yes.
I've heard them. They're telling them.
Yes. Well, Julie Ashens, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Ben.
It's a pleasure to get to talk with you, and we're going to do more of these.
Yes, please. Let's do.
Yes. Guys, thank you. This has been Behind the Scenes with
you.
Ben, with Julie Ashens, and as always, we will see you next time. We've got our elbow bump here. All right. See you guys.
Bye, guys.